Hello guys, welcome to my channel. Today I will introduce to you how to apply globalization and localization to change culture, language and interface. We shall use localization for views, models and controllers, and we will use also buttons to change the interface. So if that suits your needs, as you will see, then we can proceed. As I am used to, I will start by the end of a project. If I want to write a name here, and then gets me the welcome, I will change it to Arabic and the interface for that. I can also change it to French. I can, if I press on calculate here, it will give me that this field is required, whatever language I use. Okay. Also, this suits the mobile application, or we can use links instead of buttons here. I will show you how to use these links as we will see. If that suits your requirements, then we can proceed. For the project, start up, begin with. By the way, there is a site on Microsoft explaining details about the configuration and settings for this localization. I will go pass quickly by it. As we see, configuration service, we add MVC, add the view localization and annotation. This is required to use the annotation, data annotation. Also, we add the supported cultures in the configure. As you see, my main language, or the default one, supported culture is EN/US, then Arabic, then French. And I use a set default culture of 0, which is English. And add supported culture and UI, supported UI culture. And use routing, authorization, authentication as we used for any project. This is the startup. I wish also that to let you see how we start the project. I used two layouts, one for Arabic and one it is combined to one at last, but there is an Arabic and an English layout which we can switch between in view start. Here I will make it more larger to see. View start here selects my thread, my UI thread culture. I can use also the request or the UI culture, whatever I need, and put it in variable as we see here, current name, and ask about it. If it is AREG, then we will go to layout Arabic, or else English or French, we will go to layout EN. So layout EN contains layout for English and French, and layout Arabic is for Arabic. If we can examine them, we will find that they are similar to a great extent. I tried to make them global as much as I can. We can also use only one layout as you wish. If you combine the code or unify, we can use only one layout. Let us see, for example, layout EN. Layout EN, we use ASP.NET Core.localization, and extensions, and we inject iView localizer for localizer, and also iOptions request localization option. Here we set the variable request culture, which is we get the request culture feature. These are all explained in the link given by the end of the video for Microsoft. And we also, and my project also, I will post it to you by the end of the description of the project. A variable current culture is the current culture thread of the current culture, and UI is the UI thread. Then return URL, which has request.path and the query string. Parameters used is a culture and for Arabic or whatever language. I set parameters for Arabic, and parameters 1 for English and 2 for French. It comes with a dictionary, which contains culture and return URL. We can split this dictionary to variables if we want, because if we use links, I think parameters will be difficult to pass. We can split culture and return URL as two variables to pass. But here I use buttons, so parameters is okay with me. Okay, these are the parameters I will use according to the thread that I will switch to in the project. Okay, then here comes the head, view data of title, and it is set in the get of a home controller. And I ask about the current culture, if it is EN, US or French. This is what I want to explain for now. If it is EN, I will use the bootstrap and CSS for EN or French. I can also apply the style I want. For example, English and French have float left direction LHR, text align left, and so as for the bootstraps I use. Else for Arabic, language class specific is the one I work with in the project. So here it is obvious that it is different from Arabic to French, because our language is Arabic, so we need to apply the direction, shifting direction and text. And also the bootstrap CSS that is used and differentiates between the two cultures. Bootstrap we change right to left. There is a way to change everything from English to Arabic. However, coming for the body here, I wish to say about that I made a table inside the navigator bar with 100, and it consists of 2 columns, 1 row and 2 columns, as you see here. First one is for the header, which is view data of header. This is a localized parameter, view data of header for coming from the controller, and also the other column which contains the buttons, the free buttons I use. Here comes the switch between the languages. As we see, I will collapse the first. This is concerning the header. We can see for the button, it has ID set language and action set language, and route for parameters I set before, and return URL. action method is post. This is for Arabic parameters, and for English parameters 1, and so on. Let's a brief about the layout. If I would like to say also that here you can see the navigator bar here class. I only put language class, which I defined before to differentiate between the two languages. So we can make one layout and apply language class, but here I made two layouts, also giving the same results for English and Arabic, so as not to be confused. If we look at the home controller, it has view data of title and policy and header. This is the start of a project to load get the index. As we see here, title contains a string localizer of changing interface language, which is defined, as we see here, by string localizer that is defined by read only first, string localizer with the logger. I don't use the logger now. Then inject it, as we see here, string localizer equals string, and use it to put as in a message. Now we can speak about the localization, changing interface language. Where can we find it? I'm speaking about the controller, so we go to the controller and see here controller. It is home controllers. This is my project. I create a resource file that was defined in the startup as my default, which contains the controller's models and views, as we see here on the right. Controllers contains two languages that I will like to translate: home controller of Arabic Egypt and home controller of French, which has title, policy, and header. Let us open one and see. As we see here, the English name with Arabic. How we make it? I stand on controller under resources and only say to add a resource file. I choose existing item or new item, I think, and add a resource file. Can search here for resource here and edit to get this this interface. As you see here, write the English name and the corresponding Arabic for file.areg, and the same for French, the English and the corresponding to French. So all home controller, all the values I want to translate, I put it here in view data, and the corresponding in the resource of controller. This is about the controller, how to make the resources. The same idea applies also for the view. Let us pass by the project and we'll see later how to apply it for view and input view model. I made the input view model. Here it is, input view model under models, which has customer v. This is the input text, and display name, and error, one for display name and one for error message. How to put the corresponding translation to it? The same idea. From resources we create model folder, and then input view model Arabic and French. As you see, first name with Arabic and with French, and this field is required for both Arabic and French. We can debug and see what is left for us to complete the whole picture. I'll stop it now and debug. When I wanted to go faster, just for the time. But we can trace here till the breakpoint comes. We have, these are the set language for the bottoms of AR and EG. Okay, it comes. Now the index, I will load the index page. Get the index page first. Then it will go to view start to switch between languages. Of course, here it will go. It went to Arabic first because this is my language. And then to the form index that contains the text box, I inject in it localizer of type iView localizer, and it has input view model using MVC localization. I made a field which is called is valid to detect the model state if it is valid or not. And this is the input text and validation. ASP, I used some tags like ASP4 tag helpers, ASP4 and ASP validation 4. Then the submit button. What I'd like you to see now is the localizer of calculate. Every text or button or whatever I want to translate, I put in view, I put it like localizer of that text, as here the calculate, and then put it in its place in Solution Explorer. If you can see here, Solution Explorer for views, this is index. I can open French, you have calculate and entry 4. These two I use. Sorry. I use in localization. Okay, then the index, I have a button to submit the form to the controller, which goes to here ASP action of index post ASP controller home. and you have partial view which renders welcome or whatever I want. If your data not equal to null, it will go to it. Now it comes to layout Arabic because I started with. It will take the parameters and then detect, and the title with its localization, and detect header. It already detected the language and the bootstraps by means of current culture, and then goes to the bottom to display I think now it is ready. It is the interface with Arabic. If I write of my name in Arabic, for example, Reda, and then calculate, it will go to index posts with the model and put the view title, the policy header. These all were defined in the get index. I defined it again, evaluate it again, and because F11 gives me other screen, but I would like to pass by the code. If the model state is valid, I put welcome the customer, the name I write. This is if valid. If not, it will return the model that is not valid, to say that field required or whatever. Okay. Here marhaban Reda, or welcome Reda in Arabic. This is for localization. Also, I'd like you to see, if I left it empty and say calculate, it will give that it is invalid. I will switch to English. Here we set the language. The button for English went to set language of culture enus return URL. This is the parameter I used and set in the home in the layout. If you remember, parameters was a dictionary of 2 variables, and here cookies to be set and expire for a year or 1 month, and then change the thread from English, from Arabic to English. Okay, thread with current thread, get culture info of culture, which is the culture I want from view data of culture. And then display the index, take the URL, return URL, which is the index, and execute the code to display the page as we see here. I think it is easy to apply CSS and bootstrap and the classes I need according to the language or the thread I pass. To use localization, that means using one file to distinguish between the languages in controller or view. We don't need much code. I think that suits our needs for changing interface language. I wish you to subscribe, and see you again in other demos. And if you have any comments, I would be pleased to pass by me. The code of a project is in the link beneath. As we said, also we can use links like a reference instead of bottoms to suit our application. Thanks a lot. Welcome very much by your attendance, and meet you for other sessions. Thank you.